Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining today. My name is Birte Korpjeweit and I work at an organization called the Clean Air Fund. And today I just wanted to speak to you a bit about what air pollution actually is, and on the flip side, what we can do to clean our air, and also why I think that is such an important topic for all of us. The Clean Air Fund is an organization that works globally, as the name suggests, on projects that work towards clearing our air. And we work on all kinds of projects. They might start with collecting data on air quality, on air pollution, so that people can actually know what the air quality situation is like and in the places where they live. We support projects that work on communications and awareness raising so that people are aware that this is an issue for them, that it might impact their health, the economies, and what they can do about it. And then we also support projects that work on policy measures and actions that we can work on together with policymakers that will help us to improve in the long term the air quality everywhere. And we do all that with the very generous support from the IKEA Foundation, because there's a lot of overlap actually between air pollution, health, and climate change, and that is something that we want to explore a little bit more with you today. The presentation will be about 25 minutes or so, and we will start by speaking about a few of the basics of what is air pollution and where does it come from, and then speak a bit more as well about why is it so important for everybody everywhere in the world, and what can you individually, personally do about it as well to contribute to clearing our air. So I would say, let's dive right in. If you have any questions about any of the things that I'm speaking about today, please feel free to leave comments on YouTube where you're watching this, or also reach out to the Clean Air Fund directly at Clean Air Fund on Twitter or LinkedIn, for example. So I'm going to start by showing you this about 4-minute long video by National Geographic that explains really well the kind of sciencey, techy background of air pollution, of what actually happens when air pollutants are being pumped in the air, where do they come from, and then how do they go from there, impacting our climate in some parts and also impacting our health. So let's watch this video and then we can speak afterwards about some of these aspects in a bit more detail.
Air pollution consists of chemicals or particles in the atmosphere that pose serious health and environmental threats. But what causes air pollution, and what does it mean for our planet? Some air pollution comes from natural sources like volcanic eruptions, wildfires, or allergens. But most air pollution results from human activities, such as energy use and agriculture. There are different types of human-made air pollution. When we burn fossil fuels to produce energy, they release greenhouse gases into the air. These emissions, such as carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and fluorinated gases, trap heat from the sun in Earth's atmosphere, leading to a rise in global temperatures. This creates a cycle where air pollution contributes to climate change, and climate change creates higher temperatures. In turn, higher temperatures intensify some types of air pollution. For example, climate change increases smog because it forms in the presence of high heat and increased levels of ultraviolet radiation. More frequent extreme weather, such as flooding, contributes to damp conditions and therefore to a rise in mold. Warmer weather also leads to longer pollen seasons and therefore more pollen production. Smog is a type of air pollution that reduces visibility and has serious health effects. Smog can be divided into two categories: sulfurous and photochemical. Sulfurous smog is made up of chemical compounds called sulfur oxides. It occurs when burning sulfur-bearing fossil fuels such as coal. Photochemical smog, also called ground-level ozone, is a result of the reaction between sunlight, nitrogen oxides, and volatile organic compounds. Nitrogen oxides come from car exhaust, coal power plants, and factory emissions. Volatile organic compounds are released from gasoline, paints, and many cleaning solvents. Smog not only creates a brown haze that reduces visibility, but also harms plants, irritates the eyes, and causes respiratory distress. Another category of air pollution is toxic pollutants. These are chemicals such as mercury, lead, dioxins, and benzene that are released during gas or coal combustion, waste incineration, or burning of gasoline. In addition to adverse environmental effects, toxic air pollution can cause serious health problems such as cancer, reproductive complications, and birth defects. While air pollution has many consequences for our planet, there are solutions. We can limit toxic pollutants, smog, and greenhouse gases by decreasing the use of fossil fuels, such as in transportation, manufacturing, and electricity generation. Reducing air pollution not only contributes to a cleaner environment and better human health, but can also slow the rate of global warming.
All right, hopefully that was helpful in just getting a bit of a background on what air pollution actually is and where it comes from. I think the key takeaway from this video is, let's see if I can move us to the next slide. There we go. Is that it's really a problem that happens everywhere in the world. It affects every country and every region. But 91% of all people in the world breathe air that is considered unhealthy. It is a particular problem of cities because most people are in cities nowadays, and that is even growing. So it's even more important to solve it in cities. But it is so bad in cities because so many of us are there. There is so much economic activity. There is so much traffic. We use a lot of energy to heat or cool our buildings. Cities might also be located next to economic centers and factories, power plants, and all of those activities contribute to creating air pollution. And that is even worse in cities in low-income or developing countries, because air pollution, unfortunately, is often a side effect of economic growth and development. As people start to earn more money, they might start buying cars, but those cars might not necessarily be the cleanest or even electric cars. People will need more and more electricity for their homes and for their businesses. And if there are no reliable energy networks, they might need to use diesel generators to create this electricity. But they are often very dirty sources of air pollution as well. And there is this organization that is called the World Health Organization that has determined standards of air pollution. And if the air quality is worse than those standards, the air is considered particularly unhealthy for us. But how does air pollution affect me as a person? As I mentioned, air pollution is a serious health problem. And what you need to think about are these teeny tiny blobs of pollution. They are called particulates that are being released into the air by, for example, car engines, but also when we burn wood or worse, even waste, coal, and so on. And then they fly around in the air that we breathe in. And because they are so tiny, they go into our lungs when we breathe in. And they are so small that from our lungs, they can even go into our blood system. And then once they're in our blood system, from there, they can basically travel to everywhere in our bodies. And what is so dangerous is when they from there also travel to our brain or heart. In the short term, bad air quality can lead to, for example, worse asthma attacks, if that is something that you're suffering from already, or other respiratory problems. But in the long term, that's when the real problems start, is when that air pollution can then lead to a higher risk of strokes when the pollution has reached your brain. There can be lung cancer in the longer term, other respiratory conditions, or heart problems as well. So it's really important for all of our health that we find ways to lower air quality. However, while it is an issue for all of us, there are some groups that are particularly vulnerable to air pollution, and amongst them are the elderly, who might have already weaker immune systems anyway and are more prone to strokes, for example. The poor, because they might be less able to protect themselves from air pollution by having filters or protective gear. They might live in areas that are closer to high pollution zones, such as big streets or power plants, factories, and so on. They might also not have the nice big houses with gardens and lots of green spaces, which reduce air pollution. And then finally, what is also really important is that air pollution is really dangerous for our children and babies. And to explore that a little bit more, I would just like to do a quick exercise with you. What you have to know is that a 6-year-old child breathes about twice as fast as an adult. So while I take about 8 to 16 breaths per minute, a 6-year-old child will take about 34 breaths per minute, which is, in the best case, already twice as much. And to really make you realize how much faster that is, I would like to do a quick exercise with you where we are going to use this metronome, and that is about this approximately the speed of breathing of a 6-year-old child. And I would just ask you to take a breath every time that the metronome clicks. We'll just do that for about 20 seconds or so, just to get an idea that there's actually quite an important difference between the breathing rhythms. So what you have to keep in mind now is that while the child, of course, is smaller and their lungs are smaller, and every time they breathe in less air than I do as an adult, proportionate to their body size, because they breathe in twice as fast, they still also breathe in twice as much air pollution. And it is so dangerous because they are still growing and all of their organs are still developing. And they are developing while basically being polluted from the air pollution. So it's a really important issue for keeping our children safe to find ways to reduce air pollution. And there's one story that you might have heard about. It's not a story, it's a sad reality of Ella Casey Deborah, who died in 2013 at the age of 9 years old after she had been diagnosed with severe asthma. And she was 6 when she was first diagnosed with asthma. And between then and the age of 9, she had several very bad asthma attacks that meant that she needed to be hospitalized. And she also lived next to a very busy road in South London in the UK. But nobody really made the connection between living near that busy road and her bad asthma. And last year in 2020, the coroner, so the person who determines the cause of death of a person, decided that the death of Ella was partly caused by air pollution, because the air pollution was so illegally high on the street next to where she lived. And with that, Ella is the first person in the world to have air pollution actually as a cause of death on her death certificate. And her mother, Rosamond, is now a very active campaigner and is doing everything that she can to make sure that air quality improves so that no child ever dies again from air pollution. But there are also some things that you can do to help clean the air. Some of them might seem very common, and you might have heard about them already. A lot of them are also very close to action on climate change. So one that might seem particularly obvious is leave the car at home whenever you can and instead walk, cycle, or use public transport. Leaving the car at home not only reduces the air pollution that you contribute to the community, but it also keeps yourself safer, because when you are driving, you automatically breathe in the air pollution that comes from the car in front of you, and that then enters your car. So it is a double good reason to leave the car at home. And of course, cycling and walking has more health effects as well. If you need to take the car, maybe you can find ways to carpool, to join rides with other people. Maybe you can make sure that you join up as many errands as possible on one car journey so that you have to take the car less often. Maybe you can even switch your car to have a cleaner car. Another point that is particularly difficult for me as well, I have to say, is to burn less. Wood stoves, wood fires are very cozy and they smell nice, but they are very bad for the air quality. It basically just pumps directly the particulates into the air, and it gathers in the area where you live. It can also enter your house. So it's really important to burn as little as possible. If you are in charge of the energy that you use at home, you can also try to see whether you can change the energy provider. Maybe you can get an electricity provider that sources the electricity from renewable sources. So for example, wind or solar energy. Again, maybe you can change your car. You can make sure to use energy efficient appliances. So you need less energy in the first place, which is better for air quality. And maybe if you own your house, or you can speak to your landlord to make sure that the house gets properly insulated and refurbished, so that again you need less energy to heat or cool your home. And then finally, what's maybe even one of the most important ones is speak to other people, maybe about what you've learned today, about how important it is to tackle air pollution, how it affects all of us everywhere, that there are also ways that everybody can contribute to improve the air quality. You might also be able to reach out to local campaigning groups. Maybe there are people in your area who try to put measures in place already that would improve air quality. Or maybe you can speak to local politicians, ask them what they are doing already, and see whether they can't do more. Here's one example of what some people across Europe and North America have achieved to do. So this was an initiative by parents who have managed to put in place so-called school streets. And that just meant that during school hours, the streets in front of the schools were closed to traffic. That meant that the children were not as exposed to bad air quality, because there were no cars driving during the hours that the children were there. The children could walk safely to and from school. And as you can see on the picture, you can even then expand the playground and use the street as well under the supervision of teachers and adults, of course, to then play. And that was an initiative that was very much pushed for by parents, but working then closely together with the school leadership and local governments as well. Just to give an example of the different stakeholders, actors, persons that can come together to do everything what they can from their perspective and what is within their powers to make sure that some things change. And if you are interested now in learning more about air quality, if maybe even it has sparked some passion in you, and you want to learn more, a good place to start is usually checking out the resources by your local government. What are they doing already? What are the plans to do in the future? And importantly, also, they should be able to point you to where you can find out more about the exact air pollution levels wherever you live, because it is a global problem, but it differs very much from place to place, just how bad it is. And it also very much differs from day to day, depending on how much traffic there is and what the weather conditions are like, for example. So it's important to keep an eye on that. Especially if you have health problems already, you also might want to speak to your doctor or other healthcare professionals about how you can keep yourself safe from air pollution. You might also, as I said before, get involved with your local government or community groups and just see what is already happening that you can support. Or maybe there are really cool initiatives somewhere else that you might want to copy and do in your own neighborhood. And also, of course, please follow the Clean Air Fund on Twitter or visit our website, where we also share a lot of information of some of the projects that we fund or that people all over the world are doing to improve our air quality. There are actually a lot of very cool projects happening already, a lot of initiatives, a lot of people are working on this. And it's a great cause to join in and to support if you are able to. So thank you very much for listening today, for joining. I hope that you've learned something. I hope that this was interesting. I hope that it has answered some of your questions and encourage you to find out more. Again, if you would like to leave any comments or have any questions, comment wherever you're watching this. Reach out to the Clean Air Fund on Twitter or LinkedIn at Clean Air Fund, or visit our website cleanairfund.org. And look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you.